kliknil in bo aktiven.
Aha, okej.
To se pravi, a veš, ali ga samo naprej rukneš.
Z rokco.
Ja. In takoj, ko boš naslednjega dal,
Zdaj recimo on neha govoriti, a ne?
lej, ko boš naslednjega dal,
We will start now. Ne. Dobrodošli na OECD okrogli mizi o enakem dostopu.
Welcome to the OECD Global Roundtable on Equal Access to Justice. We have a busy schedule today with many interesting speakers from around the world. In order not to run out of time, I suggest that we start, and that's why I would like to invite the Minister of Justice of the Republic of Slovenia, Dr. Dominika Švarc-Pipan, to open today's roundtable. Thank you, Jan, and good morning to all of you. Dear President of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Slovenia, Miodrag Đorđević, Director for Public Governance of the OECD, Eza Pilić-Hosi, dear representatives of the OECD member and candidate countries, and the representatives of other international organizations and the civil society, dear participants. I am delighted to welcome you to Slovenia in such a great number and to be able to extend my warmest greetings to you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, and thank you for all your contributions that will definitely enhance knowledge in this field. Today you can take part in person or virtually. Since some flights were cancelled, some participants cannot attend in person, but you have the possibility to join us virtually, and I welcome this. Today we are going to discuss equal access to justice and efforts to bring justice closer to the people. As I said yesterday at the reception that many of you have attended, this is truly a guideline of the development of justice systems in many countries, and we can only welcome this. And as I have also mentioned yesterday, all the stakeholders, all the building components of the justice system should be aware that our tasks, our posts, have a purpose in serving the people, so parties in the proceedings. So today's goal is to exchange the best practices of countries and opinions, expert knowledge on access to justice. This is a very demanding task, so how to bring justice closer to people? You have probably asked yourselves what it means, public-centered justice. But we have an old proverb that says that man is the fundament of all justice. And this task to bring justice systems and services closer to the people is even more demanding and important in times of various crises, health crisis, armed conflicts, economic crisis, or natural disasters, such as the one that we witnessed in Slovenia, so the floods in Slovenia this summer. And of course, such crises are a burden for the national budgets, and this also affects the justice budget. And of course, this requires a quick response and flexibility. So an efficient and equal access to justice for all people is a fundamental value that underpins true democracy, human rights, the rule of law, equity, and of course inclusive and sustainable growth. And of course this is also important for attaining other sustainable development goals. Without sound, people-centered justice systems, it will not be possible to reduce poverty or eliminate existing inequalities. Barriers to access to justice persist among people in all OECD countries. the crisis, such as the health pandemic, we are also faced with new challenges in the justice sector that require us to accelerate the digitalization of legal services. The digitalization of justice and innovative approaches offer enormous potential to improve access, resilience, transparency, and efficiency of justice systems. They help us increase efficiency by shortening the length of procedures and by simplifying the procedures. The use of digital technologies such as artificial intelligence that is developing with the light of speed can significantly contribute to the resolution of disputes in the justice systems and also increase their responsiveness. It is, however, also important to maintain a balance between the advantages of this technology and the regulation of the challenges that it poses and its effect on human rights. And of course, it must be included in the justice system in a responsible manner. We should not overlook the need to have in place the appropriate safeguards and other key principles of justice, such as the principle that is the adversarial principle. I believe that with a responsible approach, we are on the right track. Today's discussions are aimed at supporting the growing national efforts to promote people-centered justice in order to strengthen democracy, public trust, and the rule of law in line with the OECD recommendation on access to justice and people-centered justice systems. Responsive and efficient justice systems are key factors in building trust, not only in the field of justice, but also in government institutions in general. A society in which citizens trust the state and its institutions is an efficient and successful society. This means that citizens need to see the state not just as a bureaucratic apparatus, but as a homeland, so to say, to which they feel connected. In the last decade, Slovenia has paid a lot of attention to the increasing the trust in the judiciary. And the Supreme Court of the Republic of Slovenia, with the support of the Ministry of Justice, deserves the credit for the gradual increase in the perceived independence of the judiciary. This is also reflected in the Eurobarometer survey, which shows that the percentage of people in Slovenia who trust the independence of the judiciary has risen from 30 to more than 50% in recent years. Similarly, the trust of businesses in the judiciary is also improving, confirming the results of the Supreme Court survey on the steady increase in public confidence in the functioning of the courts. I am particularly pleased that today's panelists include representatives of all the key justice stakeholders in Slovenia, as well as the representatives of civil society, because constructive cooperation with the civil society is something that we consider to be of great significance. And this also reflects the wider relevance of the issues we are discussing at the Roundtable. And therefore, I am pleased that already yesterday we held a workshop on child-friendly justice. The significant progress made by Slovenia in this field was mentioned yesterday. This is also the establishment of the Children's House, according to the Barnehus principle. Child-friendly justice is also a priority in my mandate, and we will strengthen this area in terms of staff and organization. And let me now return to today's event. Following the keynote speeches, senior officials from the OECD and other countries and institutions will exchange experiences and views and examine policy options to strengthen the responsiveness and resilience of justice systems in the face of global challenges that undermine trust in institutions and democracies. This discussion will provide an opportunity to share the most recent information and experience on efforts of countries to promote people-centered justice in line with the new OECD recommendation on access to justice and people-centered justice systems. We will continue with a dialogue between the justice system users and civil society, followed by panels and workshops to promote joint problem-solving and innovation. Drawing on the diverse knowledge and experience of you participants, we will formulate practical recommendations, identify challenges, and encourage the development of innovative ideas. Innovation, creativity, and cooperation in looking for solutions are definitely the key to success, and I believe that such a wide range of participants will lead to a broad societal consensus on building a people-centered justice system. I wish you every success at this roundtable, and I thank you once again for your time and your participation and your contributions, and I wish you a pleasant stay in Slovenia, and I hope you will also be able to get a taste of the festive Ljubljana. Thank you.
Najlepša hvala, spoštovana ministrica.
Thank you very much, Minister. The principal organizer of today's roundtable is the OECD, so that's why I now give the floor to the Director for Public Governance of the OECD, Ilza Piliszkowski.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, now. Good morning, Claude. Good morning, Minister. Good morning, State Secretary. Good morning, President of the Supreme Court. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's of course our great pleasure at the OECD to welcome you to the 2023 OECD Global Roundtable on Equal Access to Justice. I would like, of course, to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Minister, the State Secretary, and the Government of Slovenia as a whole for graciously hosting this roundtable today. And I take the time and to express appreciation to all participants also for joining us today. So this year's roundtable holds a special importance for the OECD Justice Policy Community. I mentioned that yesterday when we gathered for the cocktail yesterday. It is our first gathering since the adoption of the 2023 OECD recommendation on access to justice and people-centered justice systems adopted last July by the OECD Council. It was the first instrument on justice that we had at the OECD, and we're very, very proud of it. This is what it looks like. I mean, it's not very impressive as a paper. It's a legal instrument. You all know that legal instruments are never impressive in terms of what they look like, but it's a very important instrument for the OECD. This was a major milestone for us, and this group has been working on this issue for over 10 years, so it is a major achievement. The recommendation that we have tackles the why, the what, and the how of people-centered justice. It does that through 4 pillars. First, by designing and delivering people-centered services, establishing a robust governance infrastructure, empowering people inside and outside justice systems, and fourth, promoting participation and evaluation. We trust that this will be an effective framework to guide countries in strengthening their access to justice capacities and meet, obviously, the needs of citizens, which is a complex, transversal, and much-needed endeavor. This recommendation is particularly pertinent and timely for us at the OECD. A little over a year ago, 38 OECD countries represented at ministers' level, accession countries, and of course the European Union adopted the Luxembourg Declaration on Building Trust and Reinforcing Democracy. They obviously committed to the preservation of individual liberty, the values of democracy, the rule of law, and the protection of human rights. But they also committed to action plans to advance and deepen democratic governance, around the promotion of information integrity, the promotion of representation and citizens' participation, the global competencies of government, digital democracy, and governing green, and the recommendation on people-centered justice cuts across all these themes and pillars of the Reinforcing Democracy initiative that we have. And hence, we want to make your work a core part of this Reinforcing Democracy initiative as a whole. The 2021 OECD Trust Survey gave us data also. The minister also mentioned some data from other surveys. We have the OECD surveys that shows that over just half of people in OECD countries trust the courts and the legal system. A bit more than half, it's 57%. This is much better than the results of elected officials, obviously, but still only 2 in 5 believe that the judiciary operates free from political influence. Moreover, young people, that is those below 30 years old, trust the judiciary less than older people. So what is at stake here is very important. When justice systems are seen as inaccessible or serving a few, it can lead to frustration, disillusionment, and discontent, which of course can have significant consequences for democracies. But the opposite is also true. When individuals feel that they have fair mechanisms in place to address their grievances, this contributes to a sense of belonging and also reduces social tensions. And this is key to the stability and the functioning of our democracies. One thing that we have learned through all our work on trust and democracy is that citizens have changed. They have changed for multiple reasons. One is digitalization. They have gotten used to having a voice in the social area, to having an individual voice. And one thing that we have learned is that the biggest driver of mistrust or distrust in public institutions today in advanced countries is this issue of voice, of representation, of participation. So what we are doing with the recommendation on people-centered justice systems, and what we are doing here is exactly that, is on strengthening the voice of citizens in the system. Whether it's by listening to them, responding to their needs, it's their voice which is representative, and this is where justice systems, like every institution, has to evolve. In the upcoming days, our discussion will center on key themes to ensure that our justice systems are trustworthy so that they can contribute to reinforce democracies. We will focus on how justice institutions can better meet the evolving needs of society, particularly for vulnerable groups, including children. And for this, we will be presenting the new OECD Child-Friendly Justice Framework, which is here, which is a new tool to support countries in creating a government-wide approach to enhance child-friendly practices in the justice system. The meeting will also provide a platform for constructive engagement, knowledge sharing and experience, including the dialogue with civil society with a view to informing justice sector reforms. So obviously, advancing people-centered justice is also very crucial to fulfilling the 2030 SDG 16.3, focused on promoting the rule of law and ensure equal access to justice for all. As we approach 2030, unfortunately, there is mounting concern that we are all falling short of these objectives, and obviously we need to act on this. One significant issue that we are facing is the limited data available to monitor progress. This comes from multiple factors: fragmented institutional frameworks, a lack of awareness of SDG 16.3.3, competing policy priorities, or inflexible data collection model. So we will be working, obviously, on this with countries in the future. Today, we're also very excited to launch another paper, a policy paper on monitoring SDG 16.3.3, prepared in collaboration with Pathfinders, and supported by UNDP and UNODC as well. This paper provides guidance to countries on tracking progress in justice access, highlighting challenges, opportunities, and best practices in reporting on these indicators. So today's roundtable will also provide key insights for the 2024 High-Level Political Forum, which will review SDG 16, and the 2024 Future Summit, supporting global efforts to enhance justice access and people-centered justice practices. And before we kick off the high-level roundtable, I would like to thank all countries again, as well as our esteemed partners from other international organizations, academia, civil society, and the Justice Action Coalition, who are all here today, for your strong and unwavering commitment and support to this work. Once again, thank you very much to Slovenia for hosting us, and thank you to everyone for being present today. Thank you very much.
Najlepša hvala.
Thank you very much, Madam Director. Since Slovenia is hosting this event, and as we are focusing on the access to justice, we have the honor to having with us for the keynote speech the director, the president of the Supreme Court of Slovenia, Mr. Miodrag Đurđević. The floor is yours.
Is it okay? Yes. Okay. Spoštovana ministrica za...
Minister Dr. Dominika Švarc-Pipan, Director for Public Governance at OECD, Ms. Elza Pilichovsky, esteemed high guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this event. I am extremely pleased to be able to participate in this event that focuses on a topic I hold close to my heart. Personally, I am very much in favor of developing the justice system at all levels, stemming from the need to adapt to our time and space, to adapt to the new needs of the developing society, with an emphasis on people, on the clients of our proceedings. It is important to uphold the rule of law and a people-centered justice system. We know that the principles of the rule of law are indeed becoming more and more a matter of common interests. In this context, I want to focus on the judiciary and the basic premise of all the discussions on people-centered justice system. We should all be focusing on a comprehensive approach that promotes the rule of law, that promotes fair and impartial proceedings that are expeditious. And I believe that each and every one of us should contribute to the fairness of the judicial system through professionalism, independence, and fair work of all stakeholders in the judicial system. Everybody, all stakeholders in the judicial system must advocate a system that is focused on people and their concrete and specific needs, especially us, judges, state prosecutors, attorneys, all of us working in the public interest and also in the name of the society and citizens. We are the most important guardians of the lawfulness and the rule of law in the society. We are also guardians of the fundamental human rights. Our work and our decisions often affect areas where human rights require the utmost protection. And this is why we need to be aware of our responsibility and act with the utmost care and also sensibility in relation to individuals. As the role and the relevance of the judiciary in the society increase, so do the demands of the public, which means that there is a lot of public scrutiny on the judiciary. The judiciary is not an island. It is part of the society, but this is also important to maintain its legitimacy and independence. In addition to constitutional and legal provisions, legitimacy always rests on the understanding of the judiciary and the public trust. The opinion of the public regarding a fair and effective judicial system always stems from the conviction that people have at their disposal just and effective mechanisms to resolve their issues. According to international research, those that experienced just and equal treatment in courts provided higher satisfaction scores regarding the judiciary, even if the case was not resolved to their benefit. When it comes to effectiveness, it must be stressed that efficient justice is one of the crucial factors to enhance trust in the judiciary. So it is up to us, individuals and the society, to shape relevant strategies to encourage inclusive rights and endeavor for a responsive and effective justice system, a justice system that addresses all the needs of all the communities. As we embark on this path of ensuring an inclusive, accessible, and equal justice system, we need to be open to various communities. We need to be aware and centered on their specific and concrete legal needs, bearing in mind, of course, the changed circumstances in the society. We also need to be aware that the justice system always works in the service of citizens and not the other way around. So justice and judiciary independence is not intended to protect judges, but to protect the rights of clients and to protect the rule of law. Only this can lead to public trust and also overcome any social inequalities, thereby strengthening the rule of law. Access to justice, coupled with a responsive and effective justice system, are crucial for the establishment and consolidation of the rule of law. A complex, slow, or inaccessible justice system, on the other hand, hampers the capacity of people to vindicate their rights and also undermines the rule of law, which is the basic pillar of stability and democracy. As we are witnessing an erosion of trust in public institutions, but increasing expectations of citizens and growing challenges facing our democracies and states, it remains crucial for all of us to strive for a justice system that is accessible to all, a justice system that can instill trust, a justice system that is consistent and transparent, because only such a justice system can instill trust of the public. But this applies to all of us, and all of us need to believe in the justice system. The other two branches of power must show interest to have this strong and well-functioning system, which in Slovenia includes also the regulation of the payment system for judges and prosecutors. The justice system must be viewed as effective and just, fair. We should showcase it as such in our work and in private life. In this context, I think transparency is crucial for the functioning of the judiciary because it ensures trust and the respect of the public, and on the other hand, it encourages a positive image on the judiciary. This is why the judiciary is advocating public and transparent functioning, also when it comes to the publication of judgments. Given the constitutional role of the judiciary, judgments and decisions must be publicly accessible, except in the rare cases where the proceedings are and the procedural legislation stipulates the exclusion of the public. In all of this, we must strive to ensure a justice system by using all the tools that we have available. And there are many of them. We should seize them and seize the potential they offer. With the all-encompassing and fast technological progress and digitalization of the society, we must focus our attention on digitalization. And we must strive for a fast digital transformation of our work processes, also by using innovative tools which have an enormous potential to ensure faster and a more effective work. Two situations in Slovenia have to be mentioned here. One during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the second one after the floods in this summer. Despite these difficulties, the judiciary was able to ensure fully functioning justice system and also continue with the proceedings that were important for clients. The Slovenian justice system focusing also on the development of electronic business. This has been identified as a priority for years, and this year we will conclude one of the operations called Effective Judiciary. The aim of this operation was to ensure different stages of the justice system to be conducted electronically, so the depositions, serving, and electronic files as well. The second priority is also the establishment of a system to manage and publish judgments at all levels using machine anonymization. This supports quality decision-making, but also maintaining the historic memory, which is important to ensure the coherence and unity of our case law. This also includes artificial intelligence in justice proceedings. This cannot be a hindrance. It can be used as an advantage. To conclude, let me stress once again that we must all, at all levels of the system and society, strive for a people-centered justice, a system that rests on strategies that foster inclusive rights and equal, fair, and responsive system. We must be aware that our work is always centered on citizens, on clients. We should bear them in mind at all times, also when we are taking the decisions. We need to be aware of the importance of our work, of our mission, and our decisions, how they impact the destinies of people. Special attention should be given to vulnerable groups. And of course, we need to make sure that all of us within the justice system abide by the same legal principles and the same values. Ethics should underpin our work if we want to be perceived as trustworthy by the public. Only in doing so, we can contribute to the consolidation of the rule of law. We know that this is the constitutional principle that protects human rights and fundamental freedoms as the foundation of our work and profession. Let me conclude by stating that the state must have an interest in providing an effective, motivated, and people-centered justice system. Only this system can provide the backbone to the rule of law and constitutional democracy. This concludes my keynote. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a nice stay here in Ljubljana, the most beautiful city in the world.
Najlepša hvala, spoštovani predsednik.
Thank you very much, President of the Supreme Court. And now we begin with the high-level roundtable moderated by Ms. Valeria Jelen-Kosi, and I give the floor to her now, State Secretary at the Justice Ministry.
First of all, I would like to thank the President of the Supreme Court of Slovenia, Dr. Miodrag Đorđević, for the inspiring words, and to OECD Director Elza Pilichovsky for her kind introductory words. As the Minister mentioned, I would like to welcome you in the most beautiful city in the world, and so therefore I hope that also the city of Ljubljana is a memory that you will take home with. Governments are facing complex challenges at a time of multiple global shocks that threaten economic resilience, security, and prosperity. In addition, they also face structural challenges such as aging populations and the complexities of the green and digital transition. All these require fundamental structural, economic, and social changes. So the spread of disinformation and the increasing distrust in democratic processes represent an important threat to democratic societies. We have also seen the falling distrust in the key institutions, so therefore it is crucial to provide access to justice. When justice systems are universally accessible, they also respond to different societal needs and provide fairness, equity, and also contribute to the establishment of democratic values. In a democratic system of separation of powers, it is essential that the legislative and executive branches provide the judiciary with the sufficient material resources and quality legislation to enable it to perform its functions effectively and efficiently. On the other hand, the judiciary must strive for transparent and quality trials that are concluded within a reasonable time. The Slovenian judiciary has been awarded the Crystal Scales of Justice by the Council of Europe for a project that brings the judicial system closer to the user in a user-friendly way, using social networks, websites, and printed brochures, including in foreign languages. Public opinion polls show that the people of Slovenia trust the Slovenian judiciary more each time this trust is measured. Today's high-level roundtable is a key platform for senior justice representatives to discuss how to make justice systems more responsive and resilient. This is in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 16.3, which ensures access to justice for all. It also marks the launch of this year's OECD recommendation on access to justice and people-centered justice systems. The outcomes of today's roundtable will serve as a basis for the upcoming OECD Global Forum on Reinforcing Democracy to be held in Italy in autumn 2024, as well as the high-level political forum and the UN Summit for the Future. I sincerely thank each and every one of you for attending this roundtable and for your contributions. So, welcome and thank you for being part of the crucial dialogue. And now I would like to invite distinguished participants to share their valuable perspectives focusing on trust, challenges, and innovative approaches to increasing inclusion and access to justice. At the same time, I would like to learn how the OECD can support countries in the implementation of this recommendation. As we have limited time for the debate, I ask you that you do not exceed the allotted time so that we can all contribute to these important discussions. The speakers are in the order of the alphabet of their country, so that's why I give the floor to Mr. Mark Vermeulen, Director of the Services of the Chair from the Federal Public Service of Justice in Belgium.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege and an honor to be here today amidst this distinguished gathering. In today's ever-evolving world, access to justice is a fundamental pillar of law, of a fair and equitable society. It's a cornerstone that underpins the principles of democracy and the rule of law. We appreciate the importance of ensuring that every individual, regardless of their background or circumstances, can access justice and have their rights protected. Belgium's commitment to the idea of equal access to justice is unwavering. We recognize that challenges exist, as they do in any legal system, but we are sure that this conference is a big step in the right direction. Building trust between citizens and public institutions within justice systems is crucial for reinforcing democracy. This involves making information accessible to the public, including legal procedures, decisions, and the reasoning behind them. In Belgium, people can attend court hearings since they are public, except when the case involves a minor or when it is especially sensitive. Allowing public and the media into courtrooms facilitates the media's role in informing the public about legal matters of public interest. Public awareness enhances the accountability of the judicial system towards the general public. Next to that, Belgium has introduced since October 2021 Just on Web, a secure online platform designed to provide authorized users, including citizens, lawyers, and external service providers, access to their judicial files. The platform aims to enhance accessibility to certain judicial information, streamlining procedures by electronically providing relevant files pertinent to specific legal proceedings. A big step to adapt justice systems to the evolving legal needs is to use more multidisciplinary collaboration. By combining insights and expertise from different fields, the collaborative approach aims to understand the multifaceted nature of legal issues. By working together, professionals can identify preventive measures, provide early intervention strategies, and advocate for more effective outcomes. In Belgium, the family justice centers have been specifically established to assist individuals who have been victims of domestic violence. This initiative fosters collaboration among various professionals, such as psychologists, alongside law enforcement and the public prosecutor's office. This approach has proven effective by reducing the barriers for individuals to effectively report certain criminal offences. In light of prevailing challenges, governments can strategically adapt their justice systems to meet evolving legal needs by embracing alternative dispute resolution methods as an important solution. Belgium places a strong emphasis on ADR mechanisms. Integrating these mechanisms, such as mediation, arbitration, and negotiation, encourages parties to actively participate in the resolution of their dispute, fostering a sense of empowerment and ownership over the outcome. In Belgium, ADR methods are actively promoted. Lawyers are obliged to inform their client about the possibility to solve the issue through ADR methods, and judges are presumed to promote ADR at every stage of the proceedings. This proactive approach not only results in an effective response to evolving legal needs, but also ensures a more accessible, adaptable, and citizen-centered approach to dispute resolution, ultimately enhancing the effectiveness and credibility of the justice system. Government should embrace digital transformation, which involves leveraging technology to modernize and streamline various aspects of the justice system, since this holds immense potential to enhance access to justice. This adaptation includes digitizing court processes, case management systems, document filing, and facilitating online access to legal resources and services. In Belgium, the adaptation of digital transformation has led to a new era of accessibility within our justice systems. Since 2022, both citizens and their legal representatives have the ability to access their judicial records online. From 2024 on, all new judicial decisions will be made available to the public in anonymized form. This digital evolution not only improves the availability of crucial information, but also empowers individuals to engage in meticulous preparation for legal proceedings. Such digital solutions can significantly enhance the resilience and effectiveness of the justice system. However, the benefits of digital tools are only beneficial when the legal professionals are well equipped to navigate through the digital tools. Therefore, sufficient training programs for judges, lawyers, and court personnel on utilizing technological tools effectively is crucial. Although innovative technologies offer promising prospects, their seamless integration into the justice system confronts us with challenges, encompassing regulatory frameworks, privacy considerations, cybersecurity, and the digital divide. Governments are tasked with the pivotal responsibility of proactively scrutinizing and refining legal frameworks, aligning them with the evolving technological landscape, while upholding fundamental principles of privacy, security, and equity. Promoting inclusivity and addressing the needs of marginalized and underserved populations in accessing justice requires specific strategies tailored to overcome barriers they often encounter. It is of utmost importance to make the language used at court accessible and understandable for citizens. Understanding legal documents is not merely a matter of convenience. It's a fundamental prerequisite for individuals to exercise their rights effectively. To this end, Belgium initiated a project in 2023 that aims to simplify legal language and make it more comprehensible at all. This project is founded on the belief that legal transparency and comprehension are essential components of a just and equitable legal system. By removing linguistic and comprehension barriers, we strive to ensure that every person, regardless of their background or circumstances, can actively participate in the pursuit of justice on equal footing. People in a difficult socioeconomic situation can be reluctant to undertake action to exercise their rights, since they lack resources such as knowledge and sufficient financial means. By offering cost-free consultation with lawyers, like it is the case in Belgium, first-line legal aid empowers individuals with limited financial means to seek guidance, understand their rights, and navigate legal complexities effectively. This service is provided via the Legal Aid Office, which is administered by the bar associations and is widely accessible throughout the nation. In conclusion, Belgium stands resolute in its commitment to ensuring that justice remains within reach for all its citizens. While we acknowledge the challenges, we view them as opportunities for improvement and progress. We aspire to continue working collaboratively to create a more just, accessible, and inclusive legal environment for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vermeulen. And next will be Catherine McKinnon, Senior Counsel, Access to Justice Secretariat, Department of Justice, Canada, on behalf of Heather Watts, Deputy Assistant Deputy Minister for the Policy Sector, Department of Justice, Canada. Please.
Good morning, bonjour. I'm honored to have this opportunity to deliver remarks on behalf of my Assistant Deputy Minister, who regrettably was unable to attend today. Thank you to the government of Slovenia for hosting this event, and to the OECD and all those who have worked so hard to organize this roundtable. I feel very fortunate to be here in this beautiful setting, surrounded by the magic of the Christmas markets. They bring light in a time when the world is facing so much darkness. Over the next 2 days, we will share knowledge, experiences, and promising practices with a view to finding ways to overcome these challenges together. We know that justice is an essential foundation for peace, and that a people-centered approach is critical to building trust in our core institutions. We are fortunate to have robust tools to support our efforts. Canada congratulates the OECD on the approval of its Council recommendation on access to justice and people-centered justice systems. This important document provides practical guidance on achieving access to justice for all, including vulnerable, marginalized, and underserved groups. Le Canada était également fier d'avoir
Canada is proud to have a recommendation on the free access to justice, equitable access to justice for the prevention of crime with the United Nations last spring. We expect a revision of the resolution by the General Assembly, and we are determined to support the implementation, the full implementation. This initiative contributes towards our common commitment towards sustainable development towards 2030, and to make sure no one is left behind. We need to make sure to have good relations with the populations that we serve, the communities that we serve, in order to gain their trust and to implement a justice system that will be adapted to everyone and inclusive to everyone.
To include meaningful engagement with communities and more program development.
A good example of this is found in the work Canada is doing to address systemic racism and discrimination in our justice system, which have significant negative impacts on Indigenous people, Black people, and marginalized communities in Canada. As part of actions to address this inequality, the Government of Canada has placed high priority on developing an Indigenous justice strategy and a Black justice strategy in consultation and cooperation with provinces, territories, and communities. In the spirit of reconciliation and out of respect for Indigenous rights to self-determination, Justice Canada recognizes that the development of an Indigenous justice strategy must be informed by First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We are taking a similar approach in the development of Canada's Black justice strategy, which aims to address the anti-Black racism and systemic discrimination that has led to the overrepresentation of Black people in our criminal justice system, and to ensure that all people in Canada have access to equal treatment before and under the law. In February 2023, the Government of Canada established an external steering group of 9 experts and leaders from Black communities across Canada to provide advice on the development of the strategy. As part of their work, the steering group developed a framework to guide engagements and consultations with Black communities. Following this, over the fall, Black-led organizations conducted community engagements and consultations in 9 provinces and territories to validate the information and recommendations contained in the framework, identify missing information, and highlight gaps in policies, legislation, data, and services. The framework was well received by the Black-led community-based organizations. While there were reports of consultation fatigue in some communities, overall, these community-based organizations commended the inclusion of their communities in the engagement exercise. Using this invaluable data and advice, the steering group is now developing recommendations to include in its final strategy report, which it intends to submit to the Government of Canada by January 2024. These recommendations will in turn guide the Government of Canada as it drafts an implementation plan with the goal to begin implementation in 2024. This open and inclusive approach is beneficial to all and will help to ensure that the strategy is grounded in the diverse histories, backgrounds, experiences, and regional realities of Black people in Canada. We welcome this opportunity to learn about other countries' efforts to forge strong relationships and build trust with the communities we serve. We are delighted that this year's Roundtable includes a dialogue with civil society and justice system users. This session will provide important context for our subsequent policy discussions and workshops, and I look forward to the fruitful exchanges to come. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McKinnon. And now I invite Mr. Ivan Zonchets, Advisor to the Ministry of Justice and Public Administration, Croatia.
Thank you. It's okay. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to be here with you today to participate at this roundtable, and I would like, of course, firstly to thank our hosts for organizing this event, so Slovenian Ministry of Justice, Madam Minister, and also I would like to thank, in fact, in my dual capacity, to OECD, first as a Vice President of CEPEJ, of the Council of Europe's Commission for the Efficiency of Justice, which finds OECD its long-standing, reliable partner. And then, of course, on behalf of my home country, Croatia, which is right now in the middle of, I would say, a very interesting and also, I must confess, pretty demanding process of trying to become a member of OECD, which I hope we will soon succeed. I believe that the recommendation on access to justice and people-centered justice is really a valuable and useful tool, excellent tool to analyze and to make some kind of diagnosis of our own national judicial systems. It is particularly interesting for my country to see where we stand regarding the access to justice and the people-centered justice after I would say, a decade and a half of quite extensive reform activities, both during our EU accession negotiation process, which ended a decade ago by us becoming the youngest, the newest European Union member state, and also through the already mentioned OECD accession process. We have done a lot. We have done a lot basically to try to increase the efficiency of our judiciary, to make it faster, to increase the quality of our judiciary, to make it better, and also to, which I believe is the major topic of our today's roundtable and the whole conference, to bring it closer to our citizens. I know that we have a limited time, so I will not go into too many details. I just wanted to mention that we reduced the length of our proceedings, that we have by 4 times decreased the number of unresolved cases in Croatia, that we have worked a lot on free legal aid mechanisms, particularly for the economically and socially vulnerable people, that we have quite recently started to work a lot on a child-friendly justice by also introducing the Barnahus models, which was mentioned before, that we have overall worked a lot to modernize, to digitalize our judiciary. We unfortunately do have a big, high perception of corruption in judiciary, and this is why we also put a focus on improving the transparency, particularly with the better communication with the public, with the citizens, also through the e-communication. Our Supreme Court has just recently adopted the guidelines on the communication of judiciary to the public, and we have just last week adopted the legislative amendments which are allowing publishment of all the decisions, which was also mentioned by the Supreme Chief Justice here, on a special website, of course, with the prior anonymization and of course, protection of personal data. Finally, I would just like to thank you once again for organizing this event, because I do believe that both the OECD recommendation on access to justice and people-centered justice and the discussion that we will be having at this roundtable and over these days will help in a way to remind us about something that sometimes, unfortunately, we even tend to forget a little bit, and this is that our national judicial systems, our national judiciaries are there to serve our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trnčec. Predsednik Vrhovnega sodišča Republike Slovenije nas bo zdaj
The President of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Slovenia unfortunately has to leave now, so we thank him for his attendance today and his contribution.
To the Hossam Sadek, Assistant Minister of Justice for International Cooperation, Minister of Justice, Egypt.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I would like first to extend my many thanks to the government of Slovenia for hosting this event. And also I would like to extend my profound gratitude to the OECD for inviting me to join this esteemed gathering of experts and granting me the privilege to contribute to the discussion on topic at hand. I would like also to highlight the excellent work we are doing together with the support of Switzerland. I am confident that today's exchange of knowledge and insight among us will be mutually enriching. The more efficient and expedited the litigation procedures are, and the easier they can be executed and integrated in the judiciary system, the more we can affirm that justice has successfully fulfilled its goals. The objective cannot be achieved except through driving a digital transformation to the entire legal proceeding, starting with the intention in initiating the legal proceeding to delivering judgment and executing procedure. However, this transformation must be carried out without neglecting the principle of equal access to justice, taking into consideration the lack of means or ability of some individual to deal with the modern technology, as well as respecting the principle of openness of hearing and providing the right to oral pleading and preserving the confidentiality of data. This underscores the importance of adopting a gradual and phased approach of the technological and digital transformation. You are well known about the significant advantage of the digitalization. Achieving digital transformation and its optimal implementation require working on two main axes. The first one is legislative in order to regulate the process of digital transformation, and no procedure cannot be carried out electronically without the enactment or amendment of existing legislation that ensure the acceptance of this procedure through electronic means. Second, it is related to providing the technical and human capability that drive and manage this transformation through equipping courts, prison, and all relevant entities and establishing electronic connectivity among them. It also involves organizing training courses for lawyers, judges, administrators, and specialized technicians. Esteemed attendee, Egypt has made a great stride legislatively in this regard, starting with the issuing of the Telecommunication Regulatory Law, which provides for the punishment of any act undermining the confidentiality of data, passing through issuing of electronic signature law and its related ministerial decree, which introducing services such as electronic seal, electronic timestamp. In addition, we also amend the law of economic court in Egypt through the introduction of the electronic litigation system from the filing of the case until the delivery of the judgment and its declaration. This has a positive effect on the investment in Egypt. Furthermore, a project is carrying out now as a draft law to amend certain provision of a civil and commercial procedure law prepared to keep pace with this transformation after the success of the economic court experience, as well as issuing the law for anti-cyber information technology crimes. There are several applications for digital transformation and the use of modern technology in criminal justice, including the use of video conferencing technology in procedure for renewing pre-trial detention or releasing pre-trial detainees. Among the technical development efforts for the litigation system in Egypt are the development of the civil court premises in Egypt and upgrading the technological infrastructure, the development of many services such as real estate registration and forensic medicine, the implementation of the electronic archive, the launch of the unified online petition system service via public prosecutor office, preparing an electronic system that allows the criminal case to be handled after registering report in the police station, passing through the public prosecution to the competent criminal courts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sadek. And now I give floor to the Johanna Surpa, Director General, Department for Democracy and Public Law, Ministry of Justice, Finland. Please.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Madam Minister, dear colleagues. Let me first of all thank the government of Slovenia, both for convening this important conference. Equal access to justice is a very topical issue, and also for inviting us to this beautiful city of Ljubljana. Can I also take this opportunity to thank the OECD both for organizing the conference and for everything else, all the support that you provide for us these days in the area of justice. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, the rule of law works well when citizens, all citizens, can trust the realization of their rights. I underline trust as one of the most important elements of a democratic society. Trust is the internal glue, a force that holds us together. In Finland, trust in public authorities as well as in the independence of the judiciary remains high. According to the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index, Finland scores number 3 on global scale. According to the international IDEA, Finland continues to perform well in the high ranges across all attributes, including in terms of the rule of law. So all well then? Not necessarily. A closer look will reveal shortcomings and inequalities regarding citizens' access to justice. Upholding the rule of law requires constant work and nurturing, and Finland is no exception. In terms of equality, it is relevant to look at the possibilities different segments of the population have regarding access to justice. Does, for instance, the growing immigrant population share the trust others feel towards a judiciary that is able to protect the realization of their rights as well? How is it with senior citizens or the young people, persons with disabilities? Are they also as willing and able as others to turn to courts? What about people living in the very sparsely populated areas in Finland or the Sami indigenous people? Is access to justice a real possibility for them too? And can I just take the opportunity to thank Canada for sharing their experience, for instance, regarding indigenous people. I think it's an example of how we can learn from each other here. Furthermore, the cost of procedure may pose a hinder to medium-income households to claim their rights in court. While free legal aid is available for low-income citizens in Finland, the high cost of the court procedure may not turn out to serve as a barrier for medium-income households. So, only looking at the general picture may conceal the fact that different people and groups in fact face different barriers to access to justice. Addressing these different backgrounds requires conscious decisions when we design our services. For instance, digital tools can provide new opportunities to address language barriers, while at the same time digitalization may exclude elderly citizens and perhaps others if no alternative is provided. The observation is further underlined as there seems to be a risk of polarization and a tendency for growing inequalities in our societies, as we now face the growing insecurities posed by economic and environmental hazards and even war. In the case of Finland, the resilience of our rule of law is currently being tested by events on our borders that would seem to suggest the presence of hybrid threats. Dear colleagues, in Finland we have underlined that the rule of law and respect for democracy and human rights are closely interlinked. The rights of minorities and the engagement of civil society play an essential role in this connection as well. I also believe that much of the trust is based on openness and transparency, as others have pointed out as well. Transparency has a positive impact on public and business perceptions of judicial independence. Finnish courts have adopted a culture of openness, and publicity is very well implemented in their operations. Can I just mention that digitalization clearly has a lot to offer in terms of making information available. And as one example, I could mention the media judges in Finland who are present in the social media and present like the everyday model, everyday life of the courts to the public, including young people. Of course, we must also make sure that courts are credible in terms of being able to achieve their goals, in terms of adequate resources, and in terms of maintaining full independence. I'm happy to report that following a national debate, also involving the Finnish Parliament, concerning the importance of the rule of law for the whole society, we have been able to secure additional funding for the judiciary in spite of difficult times. At the same time, discussion is ongoing regarding the need to secure robust constitutional guarantees for the independence of the judiciary for years to come. So I hope to be able to continue the discussion on these issues in the course of the next few days. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Sopa. And now I'll give the floor to the Philippe Cailleul, Head Access to Law and Justice and Victim Support, the Department Office, Ministry of Justice, France. Please.
Bonjour à...
Good morning to all of you. First of all, let me thank the government of Slovenia and the OECD for organizing this roundtable. It is an honor for me to be among you. The French Ministry of Justice, on a daily basis, wants to make justice more efficient and more adapted to the needs of people at the national as well as on the international level. The trust in our judiciary is essential if we want to uphold democracy and the rule of law. Our commitment comes in several forms. We have working groups with the OECD. We also have the advisory group on justice, and in that framework, we drafted and worked on the drafting of the recommendation on the access to justice, and we work also with the EU in various working groups at the Concilium level. We also work with the Council of Europe, with the European Commission on the Efficiency of Justice, the CEPEJ. Our ministry recently organized a state of play, general state of play of the justice, and conducted surveys with citizens, and so we collected opinions. And so we learned about our citizens' expectations when it comes to justice. Based on that, we drafted up an action plan following that consultation, and we now have concrete measures that want to make justice more quick, more efficient, and closer to the citizens. So first of all, we have means, financial means given to the ministry. And we now have more than 10 billion of euros for our ministry, So that means 10,000 members of staff in addition to the ones already working for us, and from now until 2027. And this is a massive effort for the French Ministry of Justice. And I joined the previous speakers. We want to work on digital transformation too. We want also to increase efficiency of our system, but we also want to not use any paper forms anymore, so zero paper. We also develop several tools for our citizens, an application that you can download on your smartphone, for example, and so people find their lives made easier because they can find numbers to call, they know which jurisdiction to contact, they also have a list of lawyers and other professionals. We also have dispute resolution mechanism. We have specific measures for more vulnerable people, for economic and social justice. And our objective major, and on which the whole judiciary is working, is we want lead times to be reduced. So taking care of the needs of victims is also a big concern. When it comes to domestic violence, for example, they need to be supported. As an example, there is a possibility today for those victims to file a complaint at the hospital so as to increase the efficiency of the procedures. And so we are really focusing on accessibility to efficiency and closeness of justice. And we promote good practices when it comes to those elements. And for that, we created a platform, and it is accessible for all the judiciary staff, and they can learn about all the initiatives that already exist. So people-centered justice is essential, needs to work together with the civil society so that we can have smart procedures. We need to use the dialogue with the stakeholders of the civil society because it is a precious instrument for us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Cailleul. And now And now I'll give floor to Mr. Adrian Pullman, Ambassador, Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany. Please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Dear Madam Minister, Madam State Secretary, first of all, I'd like to also thank the government of Slovenia for hosting this roundtable. Having the privilege to serve in Ljubljana, I can indeed testify that it's very much one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. So, first-hand account. I'm honored to be here today representing the German Ministry of Justice. State Secretary Schlunk is unfortunately unable to attend, and she's sending her regards from Germany. We're very much looking forward to an in-depth discussion on the topics that are on the table today. This exchange is essential for our common work on effective justice systems, which bridge the trust gaps between citizen and public institutions, and which serve as a catalyst for reinforcing democracy. Dwindling trust in public institutions must worry us all. And to build and uphold an effective justice system is key in strengthening citizens' trust in governmental institutions and in promoting their rights and freedoms. In our liberal democracies, citizens have a legitimate interest in being able to effectively enforce the rights to which they are entitled in court if necessary. This applies equally to claims under private law and to effective legal protection against state authority. While effective justice is the general principle, we also need to adapt our justice systems to evolving legal needs of the future and to foster resilience and effectiveness. And for this need, we also need to embrace the potential of digitalization, as it can not only help to maintain the attractiveness of the justice system as a forum of law-based dispute resolutions for citizens, it also offers a great opportunity to strengthen the efficiency and resilience of the judiciary. By embracing technology, courts can effectively manage caseloads, diminish backlogs, and ensure timely justice delivery. In Germany, since 2018, federal and state courts have been electronically accessible. Lawsuits, applications, or other requests, as well as procedural documents, can be submitted electronically. By 2026, all German courts and prosecutors' offices will keep court files and procedural files exclusively electronically. The German government will continue to remain committed to establishing an efficient, interoperable, accessible, and people-centered digitalized justice system. In that regard, the Ministry of Justice will finance, starting in 2023 throughout 2026, with annual 50 million euros, both digitalization projects on a federal as well as on a German state Länder level. During this urgently needed modernization of our justice system, however, we must not forget that the continuous development of justice systems, especially through digitalization, must be aligned with people's expectations and needs regarding the various functions of the judiciary. The digitalization of justice systems therefore should be people-centered in the sense that all citizens should benefit from additional digital tools and should enjoy equal opportunities regarding digital access to justice. Doing so will strengthen both the transparency and accountability of the justice system. A justice system catering to people's needs will foster citizens' sense of ownership regarding not only the judiciary, but public institutions as a whole. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to a productive discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pullman. And I give the floor to the Panos Alexandris, Secretary General of Justice, Ministry of Justice, Greece, please.
First of all, many thanks to the government of Slovenia and OECD for this invitation to participate in this beautiful city, first of all, and in this global roundtable. The challenge today is to promote people-centered justice in order to strengthen the rule of law, democracy, and public trust to institutions. So we come to the fundamental question: what does it mean to pursue the rule of law and strengthen democracy through people-centered justice? Respect for the rule of law, which is a fundamental pillar for the existence of strong institutional democracies around the world. This is what links democracies to the universal principles of due process, to justice and equality. But when citizens do not equally experience the protection promised by the administration and the institutional framework, this creates a lack of trust and erodes the strength of the rule of law. It also undermines the collective sense of a consistently fair state. For the rule of law to play its role in rebuilding citizens' trust, public institutions must be fair and effective. To be responsive, first of all, in the sense that public institutions should have as their mission to defend citizen rights, understanding their needs for justice, finding appropriate solutions and being accountable to them. To be fair means that since public institutions must not discriminate, it must be free from corruption and undue influence. To be effective, as the public institutional framework must be able to deal with contemporary crises and challenges and shape the whole web of human rights as an expression of the rule of law. Today and always, we are talking about a people-centered justice. It is an approach designed to fill the gaps in traditional bureaucratic programming that has left many people around the world behind. Indeed, for too many people around the world, the law and the institutions of justice are too remote, expensive, costly, inefficient, and complex. For others, insecurity and injustice are an ever-present reality. The measure of these unresolved legal problems and unmet justice needs is the global justice gap. So, our aim is to adapt justice systems to make them more flexible and resilient to support healthy democracies and promote trust in democratic institutions. In this context, key elements are empathy in understanding the various justice needs of citizens. Secondly, the participation of citizens themselves in the process of transition to the new era of transparency and justice to the new rule of law. Increasing accessibility to services by reducing barriers, whether relating to language or distance from justice services. Investing in strategic communication. Communication is essential not only to inform citizens about their rights, but also how to access services and build trust to justice systems. The Greek government, to which I have the honor to participate, has prioritized the modernization of the justice system necessary for the strengthening of the rule of law. We have already proceeded with legislative and non-legislative initiatives to enhance accessibility to justice with the support of digital tools. Indicatively, there is a platform where citizens can be informed about the progress of their case, criminal, administrative or civil. They can file applications for certificates and receive them electronically by distance. The full operational interconnection of all courts and justice services is also scheduled and will be finished at the end of 2025. Of course, we have an extensive legal aid mechanism supporting all people with annual income lower than 12,000 euros. At the same time, measures are being taken to improve accessibility in our country's court buildings and to provide training for judicial officers. Of course, we took all the initiatives to support any policies for human rights, and we created 4 strategic plans. One against racism and policies against intolerance, another plan supporting children and children's rights, also a plan to support policies for all people with disabilities, and last, the strategic plan for the LGBTQI community. All these plans had as duration 2020 to 2023, and they are now renovating, creating policies for 2024 to 2027. This is what we have made. We thank you very much for your time, and we are looking forward to a constructive dialogue.
Thank you, Mr. Alexanders. And now I give floor to the Georgi Barga Shenier, Head National Office of Judiciary, Hungary. Please. Mr.
Thanks a lot. Sorry for my fault. Respected Minister of Justice and dear colleagues, dear organizers, dear guests, it's a great honor for me to be here before you as the President of the National Office for the judiciary in Hungary. And if I would like to be short, let me say just one or a few sentences that Dr. Miodrag Đorđević, president of the Slovenian Supreme Court, mentioned that judiciary is not an island, it's the part of the society. If all the judges in our countries, all the judges will follow this sentence, I'm sure that the public trust will be strengthened all the countries. This is a social part of how to strengthen the public trust, but if a fair and impartial judge decides and give judgment, I think that the public trust will be strengthened in courts. But this is a social side, and if we see the institutional side, should primarily embody that every court in the country operates according to the same set of standards, with highly qualified judges and court staff to respond to the social problems that take the form of a legal dispute. In this context, it is our responsibility to define in a non-exhaustive manner the righteous standards required for the profession and to provide continuous training for our staff to acquire the skills and the competencies needed to respond to the changes resulting from global technological developments. For example, the Hungarian National Office for the Judiciary promotes independent and high-quality jurisdiction, which are the cornerstones of accessibility and public trust. For example, I set out annual central training plans reflecting the phenomena and challenges of our time. As a member of the European Judicial Training Network, the well-known EGTN, in accordance with the principles adopted by the European Network of Councils for the Judiciary, the ENCJ, and the European Judicial Training Strategy, the training plan for the next year has been prepared, for example, which contains the follows. Meets the training obligations based on the law, the expected national and international legislation, and the international conventions and judicial cooperation agreements, is essentially aimed at the acquisition and high professional level of the judicial profession, both before and after appointment as a judge. Enables judges and court staff to exercise their rights and fulfill their obligations in relation for training. Supports professional socialization and exchange of views. Takes into account the rapidly changing social and economic context. So, but if we would like to be short in this matter, that we need well-trained judges, I think, in all our countries. The other very important, I think, very important part of how to give the people better feeling in front of the courts. The most important, one of the most important, is to reduce the number of protracted cases. That's the other important side. And last but not least, we have to say a few words about the electronic filing systems, the remote hearings, and the practical use of online case management tools. which all combine to increase the accessibility and transparency of the judicial system. I've got so much more to say to you, but I'm afraid that the time has been arrived to stop, and I have to say thank you for the attention, and of course the most important to thanks for the organizers for this beautiful event. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Sceni. And now I give floor to Mr. Andrea Del Mastro della Vedova, Undersecretary of State, Ministry of Justice, Italy.
Grazie, ringrazio l'Ocse per questa opportunità di dialogo.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the OECD for this opportunity to exchange experience at the international level. Thank you also to the Slovenian government for this extraordinary reception in the picturesque city of Ljubljana. In order to strengthen the trust of citizens in democratic institutions, we should, as we believe in Italy, provide an efficient, speedy response by the judiciary in the civil and criminal matters. As far as the OECD recommendations are concerned, the 4 pillars that are people-centered, including constant monitoring, a framework within which Italy then tackled the challenges in the justice system. So we came here well prepared. Lack of trust in justice also blocks the development of trust in other parts of the system. So that's why an action needed to be taken, and our guidance are the OECD recommendations. And as far as people-centered services are concerned, we first of all tackled family and juvenile issues in order to strengthen their access to justice, and in order for a more speedy response of the judiciary, we introduced electronic means in the commercial disputes, and we have also eliminated certain procedures that inhibited a smooth functioning of the judiciary. We also introduced the alternative dispute resolution, and we included also the national recovery plan. And why? Because in the procedures, we need to provide a judicial response, and we have also introduced judiciary and courts that are close to the citizens. In agreement with other services, including the postal offices, we have introduced procedures that can be implemented also in such a manner. So judiciary justice can be speedy if we also have speedy proceedings. We are also introducing artificial intelligence. We believe that it provides more advantages than risks. Of course, we can also admit that artificial intelligence can help us for more open, direct, less complex decisions. It can also help us to respond more quickly to the needs of the people. And in the criminal sphere, we have introduced significant changes, especially with respect to victims. If a victim can take part in the proceedings, and if we have the suitable infrastructure to this end so that victims participate in the prosecution. This is a significant step forward. Of course, we must protect the victim as well. And if we continue with the third pillar, or within the second pillar, we have introduced a data lake which enables citizens to gain all the necessary information. And within the third pillar, this is the strengthening of human resources. We know very well that digitalization and IT used to be carried out without paying due attention to the importance of human resources. We have employed 8,000 more staff to address this, and we have also additional administrative staff, and all this within the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. In the judiciary, we have in the past 3 years planned more than 21,000 new jobs. So digitalization should go in hand with the increase of human resources and the renovation, but this is still not enough. There are also other procedures and measures linked to the pension issues, healthcare, occupational health, employment contracts, and so on and so forth. We have also introduced lifelong learning platforms and electronic training platforms, and introduced cooperation with universities like the University of Palermo, because the judiciary cannot function as an isolated island. It needs to be open to the society, to people, and to cooperation with the academia. Monitoring. It is very important to constantly monitor the results when it comes to artificial intelligence and digitalization. And when we introduce digital telematic procedures that we can afford with civil cases, but with criminal cases, when we need to respect the basic constitutional requirements with regard to evidence, for example, the digital procedure can be useful sometimes, but sometimes also not, because, of course, constitutional principles must be complied with. And when it comes to the implementation of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we must be careful not to get stuck and not to implement the plan by the set deadline. So together with the Italian universities, we would like to establish in which areas and why artificial intelligence and new instruments should be used in the judiciary. So only for the purposes of the reorganization of the functioning of the judiciary, or also in order to accelerate the proceedings. So certain additional rights and freedoms, and on the other hand, a greater legal certainty. So we must make sure that democracy will prevail and that we can also be effective with an effective judiciary. And I apologize for being so long.
Thank you, Mr. Del Mastro della Vedova, and I give the floor to the Mr. Kalvis Engizers, advisor to the Minister of Justice Latvia, please.
Thank you. Madam Minister, Madam Secretary, Directors, distinguished colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank the Ministry of Justice of Slovenia and OECD for organizing this conference, which is a necessary step towards fostering justice for all. An effective justice system is a prerequisite for trust between citizens and public institutions. Citizens rely on justice systems to both resolve their conflicts as well as keep other public institutions in check. Therefore, the smooth functioning and continuous development and improvement of a justice system can ensure trust between citizens and public institutions. Three main points come to mind: improving justice, improving access to justice, modernizing justice systems, and finally training and continuing professional development. I would like to shortly reflect on all three of them. Firstly, when talking about access to justice, it's important that improving access to justice could be highlighted by two facets. First, explaining court processes and decisions, and second, increasing access to alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. An effective justice system needs to be proactive and develop a communication policy and involve itself with the general public. We in Latvia have implemented such an approach in our national practice. In May 2015, we developed the guidelines and communication for the courts and court system and the strategy on communication of courts. Essentially, by building a positive image of courts as well as participating in the dissemination of information helps build trust and confidence in the system. Furthermore, an effective communication policy allows courts to also become more active members within their respective communities. The use of alternative dispute resolution, on the other hand, is a matter of justice policy that has important consequences for both the quality and efficiency of judicial outcomes by providing a voluntary alternative to court proceedings. ADR methods provide persons with greater flexibility, lesser costs, and potentially speedier resolutions. By ensuring that both parties receive a favorable or fair outcome without lengthy processes or high costs, courts can build trust as effective dispute settlers. In this sense, one can look towards certain countries which include mediation sessions as a mandatory part of pre-trial processes. Another thing that we have implemented in Latvia is a step-by-step online guide that gives advice to people on the most common contract law and tort law issues so that everyday people can get a better understanding of whether to seek legal aid or go to court. The second topical issue that came to my mind was modernizing justice system. And here there are also two facets that I would like to underline. Firstly, continuous evaluation of processes, and secondly, digitalization. By simplifying administrative procedures and redesigning processes, courts can ensure that citizens can navigate the court systems easier and with potentially quicker resolution times as well as lesser costs. This continuous process of re-evaluation, if communicated efficiently and implemented in a simple manner, could build confidence in the general public. This approach goes hand in hand with the goal of pursuing ADR as a likely option. In cases where ADR cannot achieve a favorable outcome, justice service costs and proceeding length should not rise exponentially higher. As regards to digitalization, with ICT continuously developing and e-governance systems becoming more and more commonplace, it is also crucial that courts move in the same direction. Here, it is essential to highlight the Latvian e-service portal for courts. This platform allows persons to submit online applications for courts or to append case files, to submit forms online, to calculate the state fee related to document submission, to track ongoing court proceedings, etc. Similarly to my previous point on ADR, an efficient justice system that can easily be navigated and understood can build public confidence. And the final point I would like to make is on training and continuous professional development of justice professionals. Above all, for justice systems to earn the trust of their citizens, they need to have knowledge and competence. Firstly, this means continuously improving the necessary knowledge to actually apply law. Secondly, legal professionals operate not only in an ever-developing field, but also in an ever-developing environment. As I mentioned before, the popularization of ADR, digitalization of justice systems, and the re-evaluation of administrative processes also has an impact on those same legal professionals. Therefore, professional development, capacity building, and training is essential to ensure that an evolving justice system can operate efficiently. Thirdly, and the most importantly, we must remember that the people involved in people-centered justice are not only those around who justice is being centered, but also those who are doing the centering. Fostering people's trust in public institutions and democracy in general is doing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work on a national and even international scale. The vantage point for this work is mirror work. Namely, both policymakers and legal practitioners must reflect on what they have been doing so far to promote access to justice and consider whether the lens through which they have looked at this task is sufficiently equipped to see the complexity of the world and people living in it. This is particularly important in case of marginalized groups of society whose needs can sometimes go unseen by the justice systems. There are trained professionals who can help us do this work. For example, anti-racism educators, social scientists, and social workers specializing in anti-sexism and anti-discrimination work. Some of these professionals are even here today and are sitting behind us. Some are not. Either way, their work and involvement in the transformation of justice systems cannot be treated as an after-school special. In other words, they deserve fair pay for the work they do. Dear colleagues, I am convinced that by wholeheartedly joining our forces to implement the OECD recommendation, we can foster people's trust in public institutions and democracy as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Engizers. I was very glad to hear all of you speaking so inspiring ideas and your experiences from your countries, but the timetable is not in our favor. So I must please you that you talk in the time frame from 3 to 5 minutes, because there are 13 more speakers. So please. And now I give floor to the Jurga Griciana, Vice Minister of Justice, Ministry of Justice, Lithuania. Please.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this. I would say traditional global roundtable. This is a great forum for sharing ideas and enhancing our cooperation at international level. As the war in Ukraine continues, justice remains even more important, and we must protect and commit to respect democratic values and the rule of law even more firmly. I fully share the view that people-centered justice systems are essential for strengthening democracy. One of the main goals of the Lithuanian government is to increase transparency and public trust in justice institutions. Responsive justice systems are directly linked to efficient functioning of courts. It is the basis of public trust in institutions. It is of utmost importance that when faced with problems, people decided to actually use the system of courts and seek justice. It is essential that persons do not face excessive barriers that would jeopardize the ability of people to enforce their rights. Other important aspect, awareness raising. We have prepared a publicly available leaflet of the rights of victims. It is also available electronically, accessible in an easy-to-read language. An initiative to set up a network of courts volunteers would be also mentioned as a good practice. Volunteers provide courts visitors with practical information and help them feel more confident, overcome emotional barriers created by not knowing how to behave. The use of digital technologies in court may improve accessibility of our justice system. E-services portal of Lithuania courts is widely used to communicate with court. It reduces the need to physically attend a hearing. At the same time, we must also address the challenges of digital exclusion. No one should be left behind. Another important aspect of that is that the justice must reach persons in a timely manner. This year we have adopted the judicial map changes. The reform aims to equalize the workload of district courts and to guarantee justice of the same quality and speed both in big cities and regions. Furthermore, it provides for a possibility for judges to go hear cases in courthouses closer to the parties. Our reform of the courts is based on objective data, and in addition we have commitment to conduct an ex-post evaluation to assess what regulatory objectives have been achieved and what access to justice is experienced by all people equitably. The judges must have the ability to communicate with vulnerable persons. Additional knowledge helps the judge to hear a person who communicates in non-standard way. We consistently include this in judicial training programs. It is important that court is not the only way to achieve justice. Alternative dispute resolution methods also always remain relevant. I believe it is especially important when in mediation we ourselves become the masters of our own questions. It strengthens not only our responsibility for the decision we make, but also give a sense of satisfaction, empower us. This is evidenced by our good practice in mediation in family disputes. State guarantee legal aid plays an important role in addressing the legal needs of the society. Regulatory changes were adopted this year, which pay special attention to ensuring the effectiveness of legal aid provided to the most vulnerable groups. Special trainings for lawyers defending vulnerable peoples will ensure even better legal protection. In conclusion, the spectrum of vulnerability can be very diverse, and therefore the means to respond to the needs of the individual must be different. Assistance to a vulnerable person in everyday life, decided to acquiring abilities and skills, must also be transformed into assistance in court proceedings. Dear colleagues, I am really honored to share the experience of Lithuania, and I am looking forward to our further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Griciana. And I now give the floor to the Claudine Consbrook, Director of Relations with the Judicial Administration and the Legal Professions, Ministry of Justice, Luxembourg. Please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Thank you, Chair. I would like to really sincerely thank the organizers of this event and the government of Slovenia and the OECD for this very important topic in our discussions. We have a new government in Luxembourg that's been in place for 1 month, and the topic of access to justice and the trust of people towards justice, well, this topic is central to the agenda of the new government that's been presented not long ago. And I would like to tell you about a few challenges in terms of access to justice that I've met. So what are the challenges? First, well, there's the question of the independence of courts and the independence of courts. We need to make sure that courts are independent, while the trust of the citizens towards justice is really tightly linked to the level of independence of justice, of courts. So the principle of independence of courts is in our constitution since 2022, and since this year we've implemented a new independent organism to guarantee the transparency of justice, in order to make sure that the legal system works properly in the future. So this new organism, the National Council for Justice, has been in power since 2023, and we are confident as to the future development of this new institution for the future of justice. The second challenge that we have is the training of people and their access to a lawyer. So we make sure that we need to make sure that that everybody has access to information relative to their rights, pertaining to their rights. And we've had the occasion in the last few months to develop further the system of judicial help in order to make sure that everyone, rich or poor, can freely have access to a consultation with a lawyer. So this system was reinforced recently, and it is now functional also during the school holidays. And the number of lawyers who work for this service has been raised, and the lawyers are also better paid in order to make sure that lawyers, as well as the public, actually make use of this service. We also reformed the Judicial Assistance Service with a new law in July 2023 that implements a partial regime of judicial assistance in order to help someone who earns just a little above the threshold, so that person can still benefit from some level of government help to access a lawyer. Also, the government has decided to make legal assistance for minors, to make it free in all cases, free of charge. And now the parents cannot be held responsible for the cost of justice for a minor. Now, the next challenge, the third challenge, is the cost and the time it takes to access justice and the complexity. Luxembourg has a very high demographic growth, and we lack trained professionals, and also the cases that we need to try are more and more complex. So the Ministry of Justice launched recently a program to hire more judges and magistrates. And this can, 200, that may seem to be a lot, but for us in Luxembourg, it's a very important change due to that we are a small country. We also aim at developing alternative methods to deal with conflicts. for civil and penal conflicts and criminal law. And also, we want to have more use of restorative justice. We have a new restorative system in Luxembourg that puts forward the needs of the victims and the authors of the infraction of the violation through a direct dialogue. And there's also a new digital transformation program that is a very ambitious project with 13 projects to digitalize all procedures in criminal and civil procedures. So there's a lot in common with other countries, but I trust that our discussions over the next 2 days will help us move forward towards this very ambitious project, and I hope this will allow us to implement the recommendation of the OECD in that matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Consbrook. And now I give floor to the Johan Galea, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Justice, Malta. Please.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, my thanks to Slovenia for the welcome and to OECD for the excellent organization of this event. I cannot believe that already 2 years have passed since Malta attended its first OECD Roundtable on People-Centered Justice in Riga. It seems like a lifetime ago. I remember leaving the round table feeling that we are not alone, both in our problems and in our aspirations. And for that, I personally thank the OECD, as I believe that through these events, they have managed to bring together a sense of self-awareness and community and purpose that had previously been lacking. Whilst we are committed to place people rather than institutions in the center of our justice system, we felt the need to move beyond what we were doing and promote the notion of justice as one that goes beyond courts, the judiciary, and lawyers, to one in which users, any user, in particular, whether vulnerable, marginalized or not, were to be at the center of our service provision. While sitting around this table, we felt part of a worldwide community who was embracing people-centered justice principles, sharing not only the commitment towards change, but also fully acknowledging the governance challenges that such a transition in doing justice entailed. We may all be at different stages in our journey, but most of all, I felt, and I still feel, that we are not alone. Over the past 2 years, we strengthened our resolve to embark on taking concrete steps to a people-centered justice approach, and in a way, we started testing the waters as to how our justice institutions would respond to this new direction. On the occasion of the European Day of Justice 2 years ago, we invited representatives from three identified marginalized users of our justice systems, introduced them to the different representatives of our justice entities, and provided them with the possibility to discuss the barriers to access to justice faced by their clients. This was an inspiring experience that contributed to better understanding of the strategic implications of embracing a people-centered approach. And we are learning continuously, and most of all, we are learning that our frameworks, our structures and institutions need to evolve. Allow me to share a few lessons learned and also some thoughts on how we are moving forward in our quest to bring necessary changes to the justice sector in Malta. We have come to realize that we have to embrace both the short-term and the long-term strategy in order to bring about the necessary changes both at the level of perspective and also at an institutional level. Only in this way can we both inspire and aspire to the necessary change in culture that would be owned by our institutions, by society, and also be implemented into daily operations. In fact, we have launched our first digital justice strategy, which will oversee an overhaul of the digital justice ecosystem, with the key words here being interoperability, accessibility, and data management. However, in the short term, we need to continue our open dialogue with various representatives of all populations not the least, with the known marginalized populations, and follow this with meaningful action. If we are going to foster trust in a system that is at times seen as being insensitive to the plight of the vulnerable, we need to walk the talk, which is not always easy, but we must not be afraid of mistakes. For example, during the reaching out mentioned above, we became aware of the difficulties that aging population in Malta faces when accessing justice. Following this event, the Malta Legal Aid Agency signed an MOU with Active Aging Malta, the agency under whose remit senior citizenship lies, in order to start providing the elderly with specialized and free legal aid services. On the day, we became aware that we need to provide a bridge between our formal legal structures and the vulnerable people who need to make use of them. To this end, we are now working towards setting up a service access office within our core service agency to be the port of call for those who require dedicated services for their vulnerable clients, as well as other representatives of underrepresented populations when they require special access arrangements to the courts. This, aside from a help desk that will be easily accessible to the public, and thus provides the public with an assurance that entering court is not just venturing into an unknown environment where everything is so alien, but rather equip the public with knowledge which is, even if provided at a basic level, can be essential, and that is where inclusivity starts. Targeted interventions such as these are important because they address issues which contribute with the dissatisfaction, with the fear, the distrust associated with the justice services. Yet this is not enough. If we want to promote a system that changes the way justice is practiced, then we have to look at governance issues to ensure accountability and sustainability. We need to move away from sporadic and unaligned interventions to the creation of a more widely embraced strategic ecosystem that will support people-centricity both vertically and horizontally. Yesterday, I attended a technical workshop, Building Evidence for a People-Centered Access to Justice. And I left there with confirmation of some principles. First of all, the fact that there is no one-size-fits-all, that the long-term plan is essential, and most of all, reinforce the belief that decisions based on data and evidence are a must. The value of creating an evidence-based culture that addresses not only legal needs, but also live needs, is a must. We are currently investing in setting up data management systems within our key justice institutions. But beyond this, we need data to feed into the knowledge structures required to implement change, but not just change, meaningful change. We need to translate this data into meaningful, evidence-based policy, and to have this embraced by the stakeholders in order to use it to help us guide them in the stormy sea that the justice sector can be. Only in this way can we provide the common language between researchers, policymakers, governance structures, and practitioners on the ground in order to effectively meet common goals. The key here is to bring all the stakeholders on board. No one must be left behind or comfortably on the side. In order to achieve the strategic long-term goal of making our justice system people-centric, amongst our other actions, we have applied through TSI funds for a multi-country project aimed at adopting a people-centered approach to justice. Here I also thank our partners on this project who are also around this table. This project will seek to implement the first legal needs analysis in Malta, to carry out a systematic investigation of the current processes in terms of people centricity and accessibility, to carry out a mapping of the skills and competences required from justice stakeholders. All of these will then contribute to the development of a roadmap that will lead to a strategic and actionable framework for strengthening access to justice. And last but not least, in order to ensure sustainability of the proposed framework, the development of indicators and KPIs that can be subject to periodic review in order to feed the maturity of a people-centric approach. Within this journey that we are embarked on, we need to build the tools and skills to entrench our systems within the good practice principles for people-centered justice. I thank you for the possibility to sit around this table and continue to learn and refine our understanding of the requirements necessary to take justice to the core of it where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gala. I must again ask of you to be in the time frame of 3 to 5 minutes because the schedule is very short on us. So I give the floor to the Anneke van Dijk, Director General, Administration of Justice and Law Enforcement, Minister of Justice and Security, the Netherlands. Please, thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, many thanks to the OECD and the Slovenian Ministry of Justice for organizing and hosting this global roundtable. Promoting and upholding the rule of law, including access to justice, does not stop at our national borders. It's of great importance to consolidate our shared commitments to institutions like OECD that challenges and with different creative solutions with which we can inspire and support each other. Acknowledging the OECD for its noteworthy efforts in advancing equal access to justice, the Netherlands commends the adoption of the recommendation on access to justice. Oh. Yes, something wrong with my microphone, I suppose. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, just speak, yes.
Yes? You hear me? Okay. I'm sorry. I just go on.
Yes, yes.
Due of the
You can
time.
continue.
Proper access to justice not only strengthens the rule of law, but it also builds trust of citizens and businesses in the government. Therefore, it stands as one of the key priorities of the Dutch government to ensure and strengthen access to justice for all. We consider access to justice to be broader than access to courts. It includes access to information, access to advice and legal support, and access to a decision from a neutral body, such as a court. Our commitment is reflected in ongoing efforts such as the national program to renew the government-funded legal aid system. These efforts aim to ensure accessible, effective, and people-centered dispute resolution. Practical steps are taken in first-line legal aid, where primary legal aid is provided, for example, by abolishing call charges for our nationwide legal service counters, and by providing a grant to establish a Dutch association for legal aid clinics. Another notable initiative is the so-called House of Justice. This social-legal general practitioner model offers a single point of entry to a wide range of service providers, such as the legal services counter, the municipality and the court. It's particularly useful to people with multi-faced problems. Due to the joint and early involvement, going to court can be avoided in most cases, and the pilot has proven successful. In our dynamic global landscape, marked by rapid transformations and geopolitical shifts, digitalization emerges as a pivotal element in considering the rule of law and access to justice. While enhancing societal interconnectedness, efficiency and prosperity, it also brings risks such as cyber attacks and a widening socio-economic divide. The rule of law must therefore be fortified with sturdy safeguards, not only offline, but also in the online realm. This involves ensuring sound data protection and responsible deployment of artificial intelligence. The Netherlands remains committed to continue to invest in a strong digital legal infrastructure as a part of a value-driven national digital transition. Within this transition, the Dutch government is working on increased digital accessibility for justice seekers, ensuring reliable, up-to-date and secure online information, along with facilitating and expanded yet judicious online publication of legal judgments. The Dutch judiciary has furthermore started a pilot online dispute resolution platform in order to increase access to justice online. And then I will have some final remarks. Being in the beautiful city of Ljubljana, I wish to underscore one final point. Specifically, the importance of access to justice for victims of international crimes. Over the past years, the Netherlands, together with Slovenia and several other states, have worked together on the MLA initiative. This has resulted in the new Ljubljana, The Hague Convention, to which almost 70 states agreed in May this year. This convention will allow states to better cooperate with each other in the national adjudication of core international crimes. The signing ceremony will take place on 14 and 15 February of next year at the Peace Palace in The Hague. And it goes without saying that we hope to see you all there and that you will become a party to the convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. van Dijk. Thank you also for the mention of the Ljubljana Convention, and I invite all the participants, all the states that signed this very important convention. And now I give the floor to Mrs. Alexandra Rusin-Batko, the Director, Department of Strategy and European Funds, Ministry of Justice, Poland. Please.
Thank you very much. Dear Minister, representative of Ministry of Justice of Slovenia, dear OECD team, thank you very much for inviting us here. It's always a great pleasure and inspiration for further actions. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no questions about the fact that for proper functioning in the state, people need to trust the public authorities whose job is to take care after people's interests. The state should make everything they can that this trust is as high as possible. One way to increase this trust is to take care of the standards of customer service at every stage. I think it is very important that every man, every citizen, no matter where he or she lives, or is a small or a big court, will be served with the same standards. And especially it is important when we think about people at risk of exclusion, those most in need of support and attention. I'd like to give you some examples of actions taken in this regard in the Polish Ministry of Justice. In 2019-2021, we carried out a project implementing standards and procedures for customer service in the judiciary. There were conducting workshops for the employees of general courts. At the workshop, the issues presented were their principles of service to stakeholders with a disability. A continuation of these activities is the current project ensuring accessibility of justice for persons with disabilities. Here, over 4,500 people have been trained, and I think they get more competence of judicial employees has been improved in the field of knowledge related to the special needs of persons with disabilities and methods, the way of contact and communication at various organizational levels in the generally judiciary. Participants in the training were introduced to various areas and aspects of accessibility, and also we made an accessible court model in this project. Another suggestion is to undertake initiative aimed at better understanding of the functioning of the judiciary and available public assistance, example, mediation days, free legal days at the court, etc. I think that governments can develop justice system by making good, helpful law, listening to the voice of citizens and consulting with stakeholders while still at the stage of laying the groundwork of legislation. In addition, governments should provide a friendly environment for improving, updating existing laws in accordance with current stakeholders' needs, encourage citizens to comply with the law, to take advantage of the opportunity to assert their rights through the court as a promote and effective manner, as well as out-of-court methods of resolving dispute mediation. As it was mentioned before, we cannot forget about the use of innovation technologies as an opportunity to bring the justice system closer to citizens, improve the functioning of the court, and support judges in their daily work. An area of technology that may be applicable here is the use of artificial intelligence. Thank you. At the end, I'd like to mention that in our office we have begun work of creation a satisfaction and needs survey for the court client. It will include questions about, among other things, the needs of people with disabilities and will, we hope, remove barriers to access to the courts for these people. I also would like to mention that the important source of information, in particular about good practices in other countries, such as Justice Scoreboard and CEPES. We take many inspiration from there. Thank you very much. I'll try to make it faster. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rasim-Batko, and I give the floor to John Jeffrey, Deputy Minister for Justice and Constitutional Development, South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and let me begin by thanking the OECD and the Ministry of Justice of Slovenia for organizing this event, and also thank you for the invitation to us to attend. I'll just briefly give some responses to the questions that were raised in the document, the questions for discussion. I think to highlight that before we can raise issues of transparency and efficiency, we need to provide access to justice and justice services. And what does that mean? At a basic level, it means that people know where to go to have a dispute resolved and where to go to have their rights protected. And this implies that there are two vital elements to the concept of access to justice. Firstly, the existence of physical courts or institutions or bodies capable of dispute resolution. And secondly, awareness of rights so that people know what their rights are and where to go. And it also means expanding access, expanding services to marginalized and marginalized communities. So human rights education is very important. It's something we do in South Africa in terms of part of the school curriculum, and there's also various programs from the Department of Justice, National Wills Week, for example, those kinds of things. But I think when it comes to trust in the judiciary, what is important is, or very important, is the whole appointment process of members of the judiciary and the process for removal of judges when things have gone wrong. In South Africa, we have public interviews of people wanting to apply for to become judges by a Judicial Services Commission. Those interviews are televised so people can see who's good and who's not good. And that Judicial Service Commission basically makes the recommendations to the President for appointment, and the President has to appoint. It also means processes as far as removal of judges. Unfortunately, in order to protect the independence of the judiciary, those processes can take time. But there's also then the issue of transparency. It's important that court hearings are open to the public, not just open to the public, that the media is also there, and in fact those cases that can be live streamed if people want to do that. Lastly, with access to justice, it's the question of the costs of legal representation and the importance of having, as we do in South Africa, a legal aid system where people who can't afford access to justice or can't afford lawyers can have lawyers appointed for them by legal aid and institution. Also, we have other bodies such as the small claims courts for minor disputes where people do not have lawyers at all, they represent themselves, lawyers are not allowed. So thank you very much. Just in the interest of time, I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey. And I give the floor to the Mr. Heitor Kubo, Director General, Digital Transformation of the Justice Administration, Ministry of Justice, Spain. Please.
Thank you very much for the invitation and the organization, both to OECD and Slovenia, for having organized this event in this wonderful city. I speak on behalf of Manuel Olmedo, current Secretary of State for Justice, who for last-minute agenda reason has not been able to join us. Access to justice and focus on citizens is essential. We want to stress the role of digital transformation to facilitate that access. In Spain, justice is already digital, and our participants in the judicial process, not only lawyers or justice professionals, but also citizens and companies, can now access to the judicial procedure, which is fully electronic through the internet. The judicial decisions are also published anonymized, so it's fully digital. But access to justice has to ensure the elimination of gaps. This includes the age gap, the economic gap, the cultural gap, the gender gap, and of course, territorial gaps, and not create new digital gaps. The Justice Folder project is an strategic for these objectives, and the aim is to facilitate access to everything related to justice from the user perspective point of view. The citizen does not have to search. He identifies himself digitally, and the judicial system informs him of the status of his procedures, facilitates access to documents, indicates the power of attorney that has been activated, the appointments he has scheduled with the judicial system, or future participation in trials, etc. I want to emphasize that you don't have to search for it. The system works for you and provides you the information in a proactive way, in an accessible way. Right now we are working, and we hope that at the beginning of the next year we will have an artificial intelligence service that translates the judicial documents into simple street language, understandable, that any citizen can understand. I would like to highlight that digitalization is essential also to facilitate access in those cases that the people don't want to relate with a judicial system by digital means. The people want to relate in person and in paper, but even here, the digitalization of justice is essential. For example, right now, together with an advanced video conference system, justice service can be available in the 8,000 municipalities of Spain without the need to travel to the courts for most of the procedures. Digital transformation is not everything. It must be accompanied by organizational structure reform that ensure access to justice, especially in large, dispersed countries with distributed powers like ours. One of the priorities in our case is to adapt this organizational structure and processes in justice system to the new reality. Updating judicial structures that were created in the 19th century and addressing new problems such as mass litigation is essential to ensure good public service. Justice is not only a pillar of democracy, it's also a fundamental for the country's efficiency and competitiveness. To do this, legal certainty and speed of justice are needed. Again, digital transformation and new technology are an opportunity. But some of these new technology, such as artificial intelligence, have certain challenges. We are finding what we are finding in countries where electronic procedure is completely digital is that the public sector, the judges, the prosecutor, do not have the same tools as the private sector lawyers. And that's a problem. The private sector can download the entire electronic judicial process and transfer it to advanced artificial intelligence system, which public users not yet have available due to ethical discussion that this system have. But the private sector is already using it. Forums like this, Global Roundtable, can be useful to focus and allow the public sector not to be left behind in the use of these tools by judges and prosecutors. prosecutors. In the current situation, in which citizens are increasingly distant from institutions, quick and efficient justice is essential, but is not enough. In 2023, the relationship of citizen, the society, has changed. And the way of relating is very different from the way the relationship with the judicial system usually is. This is a great challenge. We need to make people feel that the public service of justice is close to their needs and the problems, that is proactively seeks to make their life easier. I encourage each country on this table to evaluate the similarity of, for example, judicial auctions of the asset of a company that goes bankrupt with Amazon. Is the purchase of a good similar in both cases? Is the access, speed, and transparency similar for the citizens? The best way to improve the public service is to listen to the users. It's important that justice is not isolated from society, as was told before. And initiatives such as the Justice Transformation Forum, with the participation of all the stakeholders, can be a good initiative to involve the general public, the entire society, into this transformation process. We want to facilitate access to justice, but we believe that we must go one step further. Guide to justice to care, especially the most vulnerable. There has been talk about the Barnhouse project aimed for minors, but justice must ensure that the protection of victims and the most vulnerable people is in the focus of the justice system. Victim care offices, proximity justice, care and protection of the most vulnerable is essential. Putting the focus on the citizen is everyone's task and fundamental to strengthen democracy and the trust of citizens. I hope we have some fruitful days and collaborate to achieve this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Now we will have a pre-recorded intervention from Pongton Tanyesari, Director General, Office of Justice Affairs, Minister of Justice, Thailand. So please. No. Now the pre-recorded video.
On behalf of the Ministry of Justice of Thailand, and we must delight to be a part of the high-level roundtable at the 2023 OECD Global Roundtable on Equal Access to Justice. Due to an unexpected official function, I'm really much regret that I could not attend the meeting in person, but was really pleased to hear that Slovenian Ministry of Justice allowed me to be a part of the meeting online, which I could not resist. Let me start off with introducing about the Office of Justice Affairs. The Office of Justice Affairs is a department under the Ministry of Justice. Our office is research agency in law and justice development for the country in civil, commercial, criminal, and administrative affairs. We see the holistic view of the law and justice procedure. We study, analysis, monitor, advise them through the National Commission for Justice Administration Development and for Information and Technology for Justice Administration Development. The two mentioned commissions shared by the Prime Minister and all head of justice agency of the country shall decide and order relevant agency to amend or draft the law or justice procedure. Starting in people center, we put much effort in design and accessible justice and service equally, quickly, reasonable for all through the Justice Fund or ADR mechanism. We will also publicize law and legal procedure for people to earlier understand with simple wording. Our government setting upon governing under the rule of law and good governance, believing that democracy means coherent participation and equal to all. These could also reflect in the UN Sustainable Development Goal National Report, which also mentioned on how Thailand is managing to become a peaceful and developing country. As my office is the focal point for Thailand in monitoring, implementing, and reporting Goal 16 of the UN SDG, and that SDG 16 states upon civil participation, I can confirm that Thailand, together with all sectors, including public sector, non-government sector, and education institutions, and are doing at our utmost to achieve the goal. To this end, the world is striving on settling the conflict occur which deteriorates democracy, development, and challenge our justice system. It is important that we all ask for a peaceful means to solve them. I do hope the time for peace and stability will come soon. Thank you. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you to Mr. Tanasiri. And now I give the floor to the Elif Özalp Ergün, Judge, Ministry of Justice from Turkey, please.
Thank you. Havalam. On behalf of the Ministry of Justice of Turkey, I extend warm greetings to all esteemed participants gathered here today for this excellent event. I would also like to express gratitude to OECD and Slovenian Ministry of Justice for the great efforts and success for organizing such a significant meeting. Our delegation feels privileged to be a part of it. Without any hesitation, we shall all agree that access to justice is at the very center of the enjoyment of other rights and keeps them alive. But what differs in each justice system is our reaction to the challenges we face while keeping this core right alive and fresh. And must we admit, pandemic and global economic crisis are not helping us a lot on this matter. While we cope with these challenges, we also have opportunities to be open-minded and expand our perspective. This is how my ministry sees the OECD Global Roundtables on Equal Access to Justice, the most comprehensive platform providing the grounds to exchange experiences. We can declare that Turkish experience throughout this journey to reach people-centered responses to challenges has started genuinely with the buildings. Over time, technological developments, social transformation, and the diversification of needs have created a need for justice system. This need is basically to transform the courthouses as public institutions to sophisticated service centers. From the very moment persons stepping in the courthouse till leaving it, they have various needs given the fact that some are elderly, child, or disabled. Also, special rooms have been established at courthouses for childcare and breastfeeding, which is a total novelty for the justice system. Establishment of the judicial interview rooms must be highlighted here as an example of best practice for a child-friendly judicial system. This is a room in the courthouses with high technology equipment and designed to minimize secondary victimization. These rooms are designed to serve not only victims, but all children, including offenders, witnesses, as well as adults who are victims of sexual violence, domestic violence, or others who are vulnerable. For the time being, there are 169 judicial interview rooms fully operational at 162 courthouses across the country. Turkish legal aid system, on the other hand, have required another significant amendment since the shortcoming of the legislation previously was the non-existence of a standard application form for persons whose financial situation is inadequate. Now such a form is created and accessible via e-government. Last but not least, I must remind not that we can ever forget the devastating earthquake of 7.8 hitting southern Turkey in February 6th. This was a terrible disaster causing loss of lives and homes and the human suffering. The earthquake affected around 14 million people. In the region, almost 3,000 judges and prosecutors were tasked with performing justice. Bearing in mind that they were also residing in the region, they were also survivors of this tragedy. First response to support the judiciary was to keep the courthouses operational. Not only reconstruction of the courthouses, but also introducing user-friendly models for courthouses would definitely serve a better future for individuals who deserve access to justice more than ever. I would like to take this opportunity to share our heartfelt appreciation to all judges, prosecutors, and judicial staff for their heroic dedication, which inspired us all to overcome this terrible disaster. We could only wish that this disaster never happened, but unfortunately it did, and it genuinely lectured us on the fact that access to justice for all is the only way for the peace of all. Let me conclude by expressing a big gratitude to all of the interpreters of today's event for the excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ergün. And now we have another pre-recorded intervention from Lord Christopher Bellamy Kesey, Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State, Ministry of Justice, UK. Please.
A Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State in the Ministry of Justice in the UK. May I thank the OECD for organising this roundtable and for the work you do in facilitating global cooperation, notably in the present context through the development of the recent recommendation on access to justice and people-centred justice systems. I'd also like to thank the Ministry of Justice for the Republic of Slovenia for hosting this event. Please accept my apologies that I could not join you today, but I know the UK government officials with you will play a full part in your roundtable. The theme of this discussion is highly relevant to the United Kingdom, where access to justice is underpinned by an independent judiciary, an outstanding legal profession, and crucially, our determination to ensure access to justice for all that seek it. But we all face new challenges. What does access to justice mean to citizens in the 21st century? While courtroom justice and face-to-face legal advice will always be needed, we live in a digital age, and that is where the future lies. Many users of our justice system today reasonably expect to access justice in a way that fits with their daily lives, on a laptop or with their mobile phone, by a click of a button, just as they do their banking, shopping, and much more. Furthermore, technology has already proven itself our ally in the pursuit of justice for all. For example, through the work we have done to digitalize the court system through our massive court modernization program. But if we are to build on the long-standing principle of access to justice that we hold so dear, we must actively seek out new ways to ensure we have a justice system that is built around those who rely on it, simple to use, and reflects the modern world. This is why the Ministry of Justice recently set out a shared vision of government and the judiciary for the future of our civil, family and tribunal system in England and Wales, aimed at ensuring a route to remedy for every person who needs one, no matter their individual circumstances. In this vision, people will have the option to choose dispute resolution, which is online from start to finish, with a genuinely seamless transition from one part of the system to the next. A well-designed system which tells litigants what they need to do and when, empowering them along the way, so they can make fully informed choices about their next steps. It will revolutionize how people in this country interact with the law. That starts with better and earlier information. We will make sure people can access high-quality legal information and support at the right time and in the right way as early as possible. We'll do that by harnessing technology. Law tech is already transforming our legal system, and we will build on that going forward. We will enable people to resolve their problems earlier, preventing them from escalating, and at less cost through mediation or online dispute resolution. But if the matter is not resolved, we'll make it as seamless as possible to take the next step of taking a case through the courts or tribunals. One of the keys to this is encouraging and building online and offline connections between different parts of the system, while making sure that people's data is held and transferred safely. We will break down barriers so that users no longer encounter a wall where one part of the system ends and another begins, to avoid the need for users to start all over again. To underpin the changes, this modern digital justice system will be governed by the recently formed Online Procedure Rules Committee. Formed of individuals with expertise in the law, emerging technologies, and the needs of justice system users, this committee will set standards and governance to ensure the new system meets the needs of all of its users. This will ensure the various government bodies and private and third sector organizations involved in the delivery of access to justice are all working in a coherent manner towards delivering our shared vision for the future. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have further enjoyable and productive discussions over the course of this roundtable. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Lord Christopher Bellamy. And now we have another pre-recorded intervention from Rachel Rossi, Director, Office for Access to Justice, United States. Please.
Thank you, State Secretary Kosi and other distinguished representatives. Thank you to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development for your leadership in advancing access to justice and for convening us here today. It is a delight to join you for this event, even if virtually. This has been an exciting year for access to justice. At home, the Office for Access to Justice has grown from just a handful of staff to over 40 public servants and has been firmly established as a fundamental component of the Justice Department's mission. And our office has been pleased to collaborate with international organizations who have launched new initiatives, such as the OECD's recommendation on people-centered justice, which was adopted in June, and the first ever UN resolution on access to justice adopted in May in Vienna at the UN Crime Commission that establishes a first ever meeting of experts on equal justice for all. When communities do not equally have access to the promises and protections of our legal systems, it undermines trust in our institutions, diminishes the rule of law, and weakens the freedoms which underpin democracy. Through data-driven, people-centered justice and broad collaboration, we can promote access to justice for all and develop informed and impactful solutions. People-centered efforts to understand these gaps includes better data collection. Our office carries a critical mandate to assist with U.S. efforts to implement UN Sustainable Goal 16. The Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development were adopted by all United Nations member states to provide a shared blueprint and a call to action for peace and prosperity for all people. Specifically, Sustainable Development Goal 16 is a commitment to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and to build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Every year, SDG progress is tracked based on global indicators, official statistics, and other data and information. Data is available for many indicators, but there still are gaps. And Goal 16.3, in particular, utilizes criminal and civil justice indicators to determine the level at which a nation is providing equal access to justice for all. and it measures civil and criminal justice needs. One way that our office is focused on improving measures of civil justice is through a partnership with the Department of Justice's Bureau of Justice Statistics to conduct the first civil justice survey of United States state courts since 2005. With our support, the Bureau of Justice Statistics will also award $2 million in funding for the Access to Justice Design and Testing Program, a multi-year initiative that will expand the scope of publicly available data on the civil legal system. And while data is critical, it is only one piece of a broader vision into access to justice gaps and needs. To truly understand access to justice disparities, we must center the voices and the experiences of the communities we serve. As one example, our office staffs and directs the work of the White House Legal Aid Interagency Roundtable, a collaboration of over 28 United States federal agencies co-chaired by the Attorney General and White House counsel. This broad agency partnership has been focused on simplification of government processes so that we can better enable access to resources that provide people with food security, housing, safety, and so much more. By directly engaging with the communities we serve to understand barriers to access, especially low-income communities and communities of color, we can expand access to these critical resources. Just yesterday, principal members of this interagency collaboration, led by Attorney General Garland and White House counsel Ed Siskel, met as part of the 2023 Legal Aid Interagency Roundtable convening. They met at the White House and addressed agency efforts that further advance access to federal government programs, including through innovative community-focused models which support assistance by lawyers and non-lawyers alike. Colleagues, our participation at this meeting today follows a long tradition of the Department of Justice engaging with partners around the world to address shared challenges. In 1962, former Attorney General Kennedy affirmed this sentiment by stating, quote, "Neither your nation nor mine can retreat within its own boundaries and seek a destiny merely for itself. In truth, the world is now a seamless web from which no nation, large or small, young or old, can disassociate itself. Every attitude and every action of every nation can affect the welfare and security of every other nation around the globe." Indeed, this is why the OECD Roundtable is so vital. When we collaborate, we find that barriers we face are actually not so different. And together, we are able to develop creative and innovative solutions. The Office for Access to Justice is committed to continuing to exchange ideas and to drive progress with you. Thank you.
Thanks to Mrs. Rossi. And now I give the floor to Julianne Meunier, Director for Rule of Law, Fundamental Rights and Democracy, Department for Justice, DG Just, European Commission, please.
Good morning to all. A lot has been said, and I might be one of the last speakers between you and a cup of coffee, so I'll try to be very brief. So first of all, I would like really to thank the Slovene Ministry of Justice and the OECD for convening this event. I think it's absolutely brilliant that we have this possibility to exchange and to learn from high-level professionals and also build up some interpersonal relationship with experts from all horizons. The European Union is built on values such as the rule of law, democracy, and respect for fundamental rights. So, of course, the topics we are discussing today are highly important and timely for the Commission as well. The Commission has a number of tools to support and take forward access to justice and people-centered justice system. For the sake of time, I will just give you a few examples and invite you to look at the documents more into detail. The first one was just adopted this week, and it's our 2023 annual report on the application of the EU Charter on Fundamental Rights. And this year, it is dedicated to effective legal protection and access to justice. So if you look at this document, it provides a fundamental rights perspective on access to justice through judicial and non-judicial remedies. It also gives an overview of the relevant EU legal framework and the recent achievements and challenges in the member states. The policy area highlighted in the chapter report includes digitalization, protecting victims of crime, victims of discriminations, rights of suspects or accused persons in criminal proceedings, consumer rights, environmental protection, online content regulation, and data protection. And the report also acknowledges the significant contribution individual judgment can make in this field. I will move to another very important tool when it comes to objective, high-quality comparative data on the efficiency, the quality, and the independence of justice system in the EU, and that is the Justice Scoreboard, that you're probably very familiar with, and it's also building up on the work of CEPEJ. So the 2023 Justice Scoreboard looks, for instance, at specific arrangements for access to justice for elderly persons and for victims of violence against women and domestic violence, as well as selective powers of equality bodies to help victims of discrimination to access justice. The Scoreboard also presents data on how to use the information and communication technology to make the justice systems more accessible. Now we are already starting to work on the 2024 edition of the Scoreboard, and we are planning to continue with the exploration of specific arrangements for child-friendly justice and an overview of selected arrangements for supporting the participation of persons with disabilities as professionals in the justice systems. I'm also very pleased that our discussion with the member states in the preparation of the 2024 edition benefited from an OECD presentation on legal needs. So many thanks for that. Another tool that is extremely relevant in this context is our Rule of Law report, which you are probably all very familiar with. The last edition of it was from July. It was the 4th edition, coming also with recommendations to our member states, and is a great tool for cooperation with member states and exchange of best practice and support. To give you a little bit of an overview, we have now 65% of recommendations from our last year's reports that have been fully or partially addressed. So it shows that it's getting traction, it has an effect, and you have recommendations that are more specifically related to the topic of the day on improving access to justice and on digitalization. Finally, from this brief overview of the kind of support that we have our justice program that's running until 27, and that provides funding to support judicial cooperation, training of judges and legal practitioners, and effective access to justice for citizens and businesses. So that brings me to a conclusion. The first article of the EU Treaty talks about an ever closer union among the people of Europe, in which decisions are taken as openly as possible and as closely as possible to the citizens. So that's to say that the topics that we are discussing today are really already engraved in the European Union's DNA. So this is an environment built on values such as the rule of law, democracy, and respect for fundamental rights. And it's also a key determinant for long-term economic growth, where people can reach their full potential. And here there's really a very close link with the work of the OECD. So that's why we're so happy to be invited here. And I make a little bit of advertisement for a very related topic, which is democracy. And we will come next week with the Defense of Democracy package, where we'll be also delighted to engage with the OECD. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Menu and the European Commission. Now we have a last participant, Daniel Ricardo Cartier Tamayo, Director of Justice, Security and Defense Directorate, National Planning Department from Colombia. Please.
Thank you very much. I promise I'm going to be very precise. Buenos días para todos. Good morning, everyone. Dear colleagues, experts, and participants of the OECD Global Roundtable on Equal Access to Justice. On behalf of the Republic of Colombia, I extend my sincere gratitude to the Republic of Slovenia and the OECD for the invitation and the honor to address these words to you all today. Participating in this discussion is both a privilege and an exciting opportunity as Colombia continues to work towards on strengthening the rule of law, transparency, effectiveness and efficiency of justice system, and evidence-based policy to promote people-centered access to justice and for all individuals. In this context, for Colombia, SDG 16.3 holds significant importance. This indicator, focusing on whether individuals facing legal problems can access essential information or expert advice to resolve their issues, is crucial for our country's pursuit of equitable access to justice, as evident in our 2022-2026 National Development Plan. Our National Development Plan is the national government's most important policy document that defines the goals to be achieved in the short, medium, and long term, as well as the instruments needed to turn Colombia into a world power of life. The understanding of access to justice as the ability to obtain effective and timely resolution of fundamental legal needs has been crucial. According to this, people-centered access to justice is a priority in Colombia's public policy plans. Nevertheless, there are still broad challenges when building evidence-based initiatives to promote it. Indeed, the lack of prompt and adequate resolution of legal problems generates significant inequalities, especially for those in situations of vulnerability and poverty. It limits economic development and directly affects people's well-being and quality of life. This implies recognition the multidimensionality of legal problems and their differential impact on people's life. That's why we need to identify and address gaps in justice data and evidence. Having tools that enable diagnosis at the level of individuals and also their decisions has led to an understanding of justice as a system. Thus, like the social determinants of health, justice has shifted from focusing solely on the management of judges and courts and even lawyers, to focusing on the people who live and experience legal problems at each stage of the justice pathway and the wider context where such experiences take place. Therefore, Colombia has made significant progress in response to this necessity. The application of legal needs questionnaires in 2016, 2020, and 2022 has allowed us for a novel characterization of individuals' justiciable problems. Our progress in aligning with SDG 16.3.3 has shed light on both successes and challenges for people-centered access to justice. Today and tomorrow, I look forward to sharing insights into Colombia's experience and exploring potential avenues to further enhance accessibility and resolution for our citizens facing barriers when accessing to justice. Muchas gracias, thank you very much, and I feel Slovenian so far.
Thank you very much. So we are at the end. I'm happy to hear so many very interesting experiences and opinions. I think that we were extremely successful and that we have some answers to our key questions. Now I have honor to invite Mrs. Elza Piliszowski, Director of our Public Program OECD, for closing remarks. And thank you again for your great interventions. Please.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chair. Let me say that, just a few words in closing, that it is very impressive to see the evolution and the potential of this dialogue that we're having today for the work on reinforcing democracy. I mentioned in the introduction that most democracies in the world today are meeting significant challenges, are under strain. Even the most advanced, the most stable, and the best rooted in democratic governance systems in the world. Interestingly, the international dialogue on justice has really evolved from the need to protect justice systems, which is something that we always need to keep in mind. That is a concern that is a structural concern of democratic governance, but it's not enough today. It's not enough to face the challenges that our democracies are meeting. So the dialogue has evolved from protecting to advancing, to reforming, to advancing justice systems for promoting democracy. At the end of the day, it's all about empowering the people. So this is about empowering the people through the justice systems, and this is what we're doing today. So we will have to see in the next few months ourselves from the OECD Secretariat how we can embed and make sure that the dialogue that you're having today can be front and center to the Reinforcing Democracy initiative. A few things that you pointed out today. First, access to justice is a key piece in consolidating the rule of law, building sustainable and fair societies. I think that everybody has mentioned that today. Responsiveness, efficient and transparent justice systems are essential to trustworthy justice systems. And the word trustworthy is very important. We are moving with all institutions of government towards the term trustworthy. This is something we should all work on to become trustworthy institutions and regain trust. So for the justice system, this encompasses embedding people-centered approach in designing and delivering justice policies and services. Linking to the remarks by the Slovenian President of Supreme Court Justice, he talked about the importance of procedural justice. This speaks to the idea of fair processes and how people's perception of fairness is strongly impacted by the quality of their experiences and not only the end result of these experiences. Countries also emphasize their initiatives in considering the perspectives and needs of specific communities, including marginalized, underserved, and groups in vulnerable situations. You also almost all showcased your willingness to move forward with this agenda through specific initiatives, including investing in skills and talent among justice workers, but also legal awareness of people in general. Improving legal language to improve comprehension on legal and justice matters to citizens, providing support to vulnerable groups, investing in digital tools and data to make justice systems more transparent, effective, and responsive to all people's needs. These are all significant initiatives and commitments for the way forward. Now, looking ahead on the work of the OECD, I would like to mention a few things. First, we will have a forthcoming flagship report on the rule of law, democracy and trust that will analyze the challenges of programming rule of law institutions to meet current and future global transitions and addressing trust issues. We will also have the implementation toolkit for the recommendation the OECD recommendation that many of you mentioned, with indicators, self-assessment tools, and best practices. We will also develop further policy guidance relating to regulation, innovation, and upskilling in the justice sector. We will also facilitate the digital and data transformation in the justice sector, aiming to increase accessibility, capacity, efficiency of justice systems, including administrative justice, very important also for citizens' experiences and the relationship with government. A crucial aspect of our work will also involve deepening our understanding of the barriers faced by various vulnerable groups. And in line also with the Reinforcing Democracy initiative of the OECD, we will also be addressing the growing importance of environmental justice in the context of global climate challenges. Let me conclude by saying that we will do our utmost again to make of your work, of the work that is under this group, an important work stream for the OECD Global Forum on Building Trust and Reinforcing Democracy that will take place in the fall of 2024, hosted by Italy, probably in November next year. And also very much we look forward to continuing this conversation tomorrow, preparing for the high-level political forum and the UN summit for the future next year. Thank you very much, and thank you again very much to our host country and the Secretary of State for for chairing this morning.
Thank you very much to all the speakers and to the moderator, Ms. Valeria Kosi, the State Secretary at the Slovenian Ministry of Justice. But before we start with the next panel about the dialogue with the civil society, we will take a 10-minute